Yeah. Okay. So, $120 this time. Okay.
Although,
Oh, Miss Brittany Burgos. Is Brittany on? Let's
Yes.
see.
No,
Nope,
she's at the Grammys.
are you sure? No,
nope, no Brittany.
okay, so it goes to next week. and no, we don't redraw. It goes to next week. And she's out until somebody wins it. And it's 140.
So you get disqualified for them.
You get,
Until
yeah,
next round.
that's your one chance, until the next round. Then
Wait, did you guys call me at all yet?
No, we've
we've
only
only
had two
got
people.
two.
Well, I didn't know. Who was last.
Esther was last week, and this week is Brittany. And
Yeah,
so,
I identify as Chris Webb.
I identified.
Wow.
That's
You going to.
oh my gosh.
All right, so what do we have to talk about before the training? Jackie, anything important that we want to talk about? Yeah,
1099s were scanned into your email. Brittany will be sending out text messages. They will be in your folders, but then we'll be getting confirmation if you want it, if someone needs it mailed to their house instead. So then we'll mail them out. So we'll go whichever is easier for the agents. Okay. What else are we missing?
bowling, February 20th.
And we need to know by next Thursday. And so then Brittany will be reaching out next Thursday if you haven't RSVP'd.
And we had a group at the chili cook-off on Saturday, and that was fun. And their chili was good. They didn't win, but their chili was good.
They still took 7th place out of 20.
Oh, they did take 7th. I didn't know what they took, so that
I
was.
thought
good.
it was the best one.
Yeah, Chris and I liked it. Yes, Jim.
Your dark thing is on the 15th of March.
I don't know now.
I believe it's.
It's on the
But
calendar.
I'm just gonna let you know, that's also the day of the car show in Exeter, so if you're having an event there, there's a lot going on that day.
Oh, that is the car show day, if that's the same day. So yeah, that's actually okay.
That's even
Because
better.
we can be open for that and just roll right into our darts night.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
No, March 30th to 21st, we have the RSVP by the 8th for Lawrence.
Oh, Jim's messing us up. So today I read this book, Never Lose a Customer Again. Okay, it is not tailored for real estate. So this is my adaptation of this book for real estate. Because when I was reading this, I thought, oh, this isn't about real estate. But as I got through it, I saw that it totally relates to real estate because it's about, so that's why we changed the title to Never Lose Another Client,
Mhm.
right? Not customer. So we have clients. So how many of you have sold property to somebody and then their next transaction, they use somebody else? Yeah, well, so right, it's painful. It is painful. So what do we have to do to get that not to happen again? Because most of the time, a lot of times, the mindset of agents is they're my past clients, right? And they're not your past clients. They should be continue to be your clients. But even going back further into the transaction, what can we do to make that transaction, that experience so wonderful, that they wouldn't think of using anybody else, right? They wouldn't think of using another client, another agent. So we spend a lot of time getting our clients, right? Getting them, securing those clients. So what do we do to attract the clients? Like, what do you guys do? We do social media, right? What else? Oh,
SOI stuff,
SOI stuff, open houses, right?
advertise,
Without
advertise.
advertising, that's all to get them to secure them. But once you've got them, there's steps that you can do so that you will not lose these clients, and they think it is so wonderful, they won't think of listing with anyone else. So Joey Holman, who wrote this book, it talks about turn any sale into lifelong loyalty in 100 days. Okay. just picked 100 days, because it was a round number. He really could have picked anything, and he says that in the book. He just did it because it was a goal, and 100 is easy. But he talks about, there's 8 phases of doing this. And so I thought what we would do is talk about the phases and how it fits with real estate to make your client's experience so wonderful that they wouldn't think of using anybody else, right? So even though he talks, it goes into different types of sales, because there's service and then there's products, right? And we're obviously not a product, we're a service industry. He breaks that, but it works for all of them. He talks about, how he opens the book is he talks about going to the dentist, right? And we know how painful, nobody wants to go to the dentist, and he hated it, has a phobia about it. Well, most people don't really want to buy a house. They do, but they don't. It's painful, right? But we don't think it's painful because we see the monetary reward, right? I mean, that's just being 100% honest. And we're used to it because we see it day in, day out. And we assume that there are things that the buyer or the seller knows that they don't. We take it for granted. So we want to make sure that we are really looking at our craft from the place of the client, not just herself. Don't assume. Okay. So the first phase is assess. So this is when, and I had to really think about how these phases fit into our industry. So that's when they're searching for an agent. They're deciding if they want to do business with you, right? So they're checking reviews, they're asking friends, they're looking at social media. Your job in this phase is to stand out. Okay, this is the lead generating part. This is when you're trying to attract them. How can you do that? Have a strong online presence, right? Update Google Business, testimonials, get testimonials from past clients, create educational content. Showcase just sold posts with happy clients. Before and after stage, before and after, just show what you do, show your craft. I know we get, a lot of us are doing just listed, just sold. It's okay, but you've got to go to that next level of stuff. You've got to get beyond that. You've got to showcase what you do. You've got to set yourself apart from everybody else. So you want to stand out as the obvious choice. Respond quickly. Speed matters. First impressions are everything.
This is all phase 1?
This is all phase 1. Assess. You want to make sure that when you're getting a message, whether it's on social media, it's a text, you better respond very quickly, because that's going to set the tone to how they think you're going to respond to them throughout the process. And you know how the clients are. Oh, you don't respond? They go to the next one. They'll just go to the next one. They're very fast. They're very right in the moment. So you've got to respond quickly. You've got to let them know. You got to, how you make people feel about what it's going to be like to do business with you, right? So you want to connect with them in this space. So you want them to get a snippet of what it's going to be like when you're doing business with you. You want to do your homework with them. If it's a buyer consultation, you want to ask questions, investigate. If you can find them on social media, go in, see what they're doing, see what their interests are. Find a way to connect with them, right? So if they're a golfer, maybe you bring up golf if you know anything about golf. You don't have to say, oh, I see you're a golfer. Just keep that info. Whatever they're into, it's like mirror match, because that's what we do anyway, right? With body language, you got to do it with interests as well. So you can find a way to connect with them. Just find a way, connect with them. Ask a lot of questions and use that information to make it a better experience. Okay? You've got to make the experience stand out for them from A to Z. From start to finish. What can you guys think of to make your client experience better during that phase? during the assess phase? What would you do to make it better for your clients? When you're trying to attract them?
Part of it, like we did last week, talking about this new presentation, this have something that looks professional. It's
Yep.
already cleaned up, so they.
Yep.
That's just how you operate, but everything, part of what you do is.
Right, I agree. So having a good buyer presentation or a listing presentation, it holds a lot of weight. Leave something with them, give them something, so they have something to refer back to. Any questions about assess? Anything, anybody, any suggestions, thoughts?
Another one, which I'm not brave enough to do, and I've seen people do that, is taking that listing presentation, but turning it into a video bio of you explaining the process of the listing provider, and having that as kind of like your bio video. With you. And so there are big teams in other areas that they'll actually have like a full on basically listing presentation in the video format, and same with the buyer version. I think Brian shared one on one of the trainings I had watched, and it was a really good presentation because it really, they started showcasing the neighborhood, the city, like the area, and dropped to them in the home. And it showcased them, their lifestyle, but also they took the time to see the faces, who's gonna take care of you in the process. But they explained the process, and this is like basically,
And I think
On the
that's almost
website,
in the next
commercial.
step, though.
yeah.
I think I think it's a good idea that it might be a little bit too much when you're just trying to attract them, right?
Yeah, but like if I saw that in my name on Google, I would be like, ooh, they're professional. And
Yeah.
it might get me to.
How would
dig
you get
deeper.
that out to people, though?
So like that mentions right here, like on your Google business page. aside
Oh,
from
you
having
put it on that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's a
can have
good
it on your
idea.
business page. you can
That's a
have it
good
on any-
idea. That's a really good idea.
Mhm.
If you can- Yeah, if you can figure a
And
way
you're bold
to
enough
get
to
that
make
out to them, but you gotta be bold enough to do it, right?
And even if, and my thoughts was, okay, me, I'm not comfortable being in front of the camera, but I could still do that similar in my style, which is like a slideshow, but I know having a presence on the face, it has a far better impact than not, so I gotta get over that.
Right.
You can pictures and then just be a voiceover.
Yes, but it's not the same impact if they're not seeing your face, cause it's like.
You
that
don't want it to
empathy
be
is
too
connecting
ad,
them.
like, you want it to be personal, I think.
Yeah.
You
You're
want it
gonna
to-
talk to them, you're gonna mention them. You're gonna do it.
No, it's not like, it's not a direct, it's like an actual commercial ad that you put on your profile, kind of like your agent bio
Oh,
in video format.
Another thing I've got done,
Yeah.
I've had other people do to me, like car salesmen and stuff. They'll send a video to me. Directly to me, like personalized.
Yeah, but
Hey,
you're
Chris.
saying like to send out,
But that's
someone
why,
to reach out to you.
Right, before
Before
they
they
know
connect.
you're interested.
before they
When
know
I'm
you-
just trying to get a lead, right? We're saying as to the general public, like just send something
But the
out.
pick me moment,
The pick me moment, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it wouldn't be personalized at this point,
no,
but the next, but you will see in the next one, it will be.
but you still wanna stand out from all the others.
Right, so in your social media and your online presence, have you really looked at your social media and your online presence? Very, looking at it very unemotionally, like don't be biased about it. Don't be emotional. Look at your social media and what would a client see if that was your social media? What would it be? Like, I think it's important to really scrutinize your social media and see what people are seeing. It's important to, because we're trying to get them, right? So these are cold leads. SOI is different, right? That's different. And you could send a video out to your SOI, Chris, like schedule it, do a video and send it to them, like an email or a text video, once a quarter. Just checking in, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's happening in the industry. That's a way you could reach out to your SOI and make it very personal. Okay. So phase 2 is admit. It's, they chose you, but they're feeling nervous. So, they have a problem or a need, and they know they need you to help them solve it. And, so it's that point where you've got them. Maybe they've signed a buyer representation form. Maybe they've signed a listing. You've got them. But now you gotta watch out because the remorse will kick in. That's when they start questioning, like, oh, am I working with the right agent? Is this the right agent? Is this the right person for me? Oh, I don't know if I should have listed with them. I think the price is wrong. That's when you really got to stay engaged with these people, because that's when you can lose them, right? Because how many agents have you seen, they sign the buyer, the broker buyer agreement, and then the people want out, or they're like, oh, I'm with an agent, another agent, I don't want to be with them. So you gotta make sure that during that phase, and not hearing anything from them is not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes the squeaky wheels are the better ones, because then you can't, you're forced to stay engaged with them. The ones that say nothing, you don't know what's going on, and they're at their house calling other agents, and you have no idea, but you're not staying engaged with them. So during phase 2, send a welcome video. And so I did a sample one, and it's not good, guys, but it doesn't matter, because I just wanted to show you, like, I'm gonna do this little video. It took me like a minute. Send it out. It does not have to be perfect. They don't care about perfect, but it's a welcome video, just personally welcoming them to the journey. You can also provide a next step guide. And we're gonna have these guides for you, but it's next week's training, and I'm gonna provide the guides. So it's a whole list of what you are going to do for them during this process and why they need you. Because when I meet with clients and I'm showing houses, I show them the house, and if they show some interest, then especially if they're first-time home buyers, I'm gonna tell them what's in the buying process. They have zero clue what's gonna happen, and it's scary. So I tell them, once we find one that you like, and we make sure with the lender we're good, we're gonna submit the offer. I tell them how the offer process works. You have to assume they know nothing. You have to assume. And then I tell them how the offer, how that's gonna work. How when you write an offer, then the seller can either accept, reject, or counter back to you. Then the ball's back in our court if they counter, and what happens after that. So I go through the whole explanation of that. Then I talk about, once we get into escrow, how we're going to do a home inspection, we're going to do a pest inspection, we have a 17-day inspection period. I've always used this catchphrase: as easily as we get you into this transaction, I can get you out. Because you don't really want to give them an out, but you want them to feel comfortable. You don't want them to panic and feel like, oh God, I'm gonna be locked into this. So, because sometimes first-time homebuyers are looking for perfect, and they're doing their own little home inspection before they even make an offer on a house. And that's like, you guys, you don't need to do this. Does this house seem like it's gonna work for you? Great. Let's see if we can even get an offer accepted. If we do, we're gonna do a home inspection. Then we have a whole nother round of negotiating, which is the request for repairs. And you give them that, you teach them about contingencies. We have our loan contingency, inspection, and then we have appraisal contingency. So they kind of have a thing. The other thing I like to do at the start of when I'm working with them is I do it once we get an accepted offer or once I list. This is my team. You're gonna hear from my admin. You're gonna hear from my TC. This is who I would like to use for escrow. I tell them who the players are, especially once you get an accepted offer for a buyer. So you're gonna say, oh, this is Athena, she's my TC. You're gonna hear from her once in a while. Give them her phone number so they know what it is. We're gonna get set, you, of course, with home inspections, offer them 2 or 3, names, and if they ask, this is who I would use, or, they can ask sometimes like that, but I give them a couple of names to choose from. But I definitely tell them who they're gonna hear from. We are in escrow with Chicago Title, whoever, Rose is our escrow officer. You will hear from her sometimes. If you know the escrow officer's assistant, tell them who that person is. It is very overwhelming. They have no idea who all these people are. They end up saying, well, escrow never gave me disclosures. Because escrow doesn't give you disclosures. Escrow didn't order this. They don't. But you have to explain it, because we assume that they know. So during that phase, you've got to stay really engaged with them. They know they need you. They've signed up with you. get through it. If they're looking at properties and they can't find the right thing, it's okay. Reassure them. It takes a little while sometimes. It's not gonna be instant. You know, make them feel comfortable and seen and listen to them when they're looking at houses. And if they say, oh, I feel like we just can't get anything, that's the way, sometimes it's the way the market is. Just reassure them as much as you can. With the seller, it's gonna be the same thing once they list with you. And I think with sellers, you should be reaching out to sellers once a week. Good, bad, or
No,
no update. And the update could be, nothing has happened. There is nothing happening. I didn't get any sign calls, you know, I didn't get any calls from agents, whatever. Because not engaging doesn't work. And then they're like, we never hear from our agent. At least they know it's not fun to call and say there's nothing going on, or we got feedback and the agent thought, you know, you're overpriced, but at least it is communication, and they may not like it at the time, but that's okay. Because, you know, usually they're just venting, and it's not really aimed at you. It's just in general, and when they're upset about that. Okay, any questions about any of that? Anybody have any questions about that part? Admit.
does anyone already do something special?
Yeah, does anybody do anything like this?
That and welcome email as soon as our offer gets accepted. Congratulations, you're officially as our contact. As the subject line with the address, and I give them everything they need to know in that welcome email, and I make sure they have all the information for their escrow. I give them their contact for review, so they have a copy. I give them disclosures if I already have them for review, and let them know they will be out for signature. Give them prices on home inspections, and I give them a few different choices, depending on whatever home warranty.
And do you think that, is that overwhelming all in one email for people?
No, because I make it very simple, and like where your DMD goes, your party is where you're gonna be reaching out.
And I think it's okay, but I think you have to pick your clients that you can do that for, because I think with a first time home buyer, that's gonna absolutely freak them out. Because they don't understand what it is.
Well-
I think you need to,
If you
I
did
mean,
a
it's
phone call
okay.
too.
yes, you could do a phone call too. I would suggest a phone call with that. Saying, okay, guys, because they're gonna see disclosures, EMD, this, I mean, they're gonna be like, what the heck is going on? Especially young, first time home buyers. So I think it's a good idea, Lacey, but I would reinforce that with a phone call. Like, hey, we're in escrow, because it's more personal too, right? And what if you did something like that and then did a video to go with it? Like, hey, guys, we're in escrow. This is, you know, this is the next step is we've got to get your, you know, your good faith deposit in, and this is, escrow's gonna be sending you wiring instructions, and just, you gotta do baby steps with these people and assume they know nothing. Because I just sold property to good clients of mine that haven't bought anything for about 15 years, but they've had rentals and that kind of thing, but they've always been good, they're friends. And she said, oh, I've gotten all of this, like I forgot what is happening with all of this. So don't assume just because they know what's going on, they bought property, that they know everything that's going on. But I think a welcome email is good. I think it should be reinforced with something. And so that, yeah, so they know what to expect.
Yeah, I just opened escrow on one, it's for 10 buyers and I did a phone call. And I told her up front, I said, I wanted to take a moment to kind of explain my process.
Yep.
But don't feel overwhelmed, don't feel like you have to memorize any of this. I want you to remember how it feels, how this conversation feels more so.
Yes.
Than what the details are, and none of this is expected from you on your own. Somebody will be reaching out for anything and everything throughout escrow. You don't have to
Yep.
remember any of this. You don't have to remember to do anything by a certain time frame. That's my job. I'm gonna cover that for you. If escrow needs something, they're gonna reach out to you. You don't have to reach out to them. If the lender needs something, they're gonna reach out to you. You don't have to reach out to them. If I need something, I have my assistant Athena, she'll reach out to you. You don't have to reach out to us. So everything, I'm gonna explain everything to you. Don't feel like you have to memorize it. Just know this is a general outline of the process. If you wanna take notes, you can. And I did that. She took some notes and
Smooth sailing
felt
from there.
Yeah.
that is good, because I like it actually when my clients reach, especially buyers, they feel so comfy with me, they'll call me about what's going on with the loan. I like that, even that, because I feel like, oh, then I'm more in the mix, I know people like me, I know they trust me, and I want them to call me, and then I'll call whatever lender it is, let me find out for you, and then get back to them. I like that trust involved.
And when you do that, tell them if anything is, you're unsure of anything, you get an email or a call from anybody and you're not sure about it,
Call me, call me. We always want to be, call me, call me, call me. So that, I mean, obviously, they're gonna ask some questions to a lender. They're not gonna call us every time. But they're going to, but they're, I like to be that middleman and stuff. I like to. And plus it keeps, I can feel the pulse of the deal. I can feel what's going on. Okay. Anything else that anybody else does during that?
Voice message, like text message, because the AI will translate it in a text, and they have the voice, your voice to refer back to always. So, it's, because a lot of my first time home buyers, they don't even use their email, right? It's
No.
like that hotmail.com or Yahoo. So that's what works for me, but what works for my clients, that I've noticed they respond well to is the voice message. They love it. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a video of myself, I just send it whenever, and then it's a step by step, so they can always press play.
you have a nice voice, what about us that have bad voices?
It's terrible. Yeah.
They'll probably go to sleep listening to your
But
voice.
it's not, it's not a voicemail, it's in our text, and you can refer back to it, and it's also translated where they can read it at work, if they can't put it in.
So
Yeah, voice control conveys tone versus text doesn't always convey the tone.
So you gotta gauge who your client is, right? If it's my 80-year-old, 90-year-old parents, we're not gonna send a video text. I'm probably not gonna do it through email. I'm either gonna stop by and say, and talk to them, or a phone call. You've gotta gauge your audience. So, and what you feel comfortable with. So Lacey likes to do a phone call and an email. Ronnie likes to do the video. Just Chris did a phone call. It just kind of depends who your people are. What are you laughing about, Chris?
I was just thinking,
I love teaching my oldest clients how to use a phone, that's my favorite. I taught my client the other day how to use a phone. No, they love it.
You could do a little thank you to them, once they get into, like, you could do some cute thing like, hey, cheers to, getting through the process together, or our new relationship, or whatever it is, something cute that also relates back to that too. But you want to make sure you're loving on them a lot. And this, so we've got them to the point of wanting to use you. Now we've gotten them to the point where they really are doing something, right? Now they're really either writing an offer, they're getting offers accepted, they want to work with you. Don't let them lose that trust, and don't feel too comfortable. Like, don't assume that they know everything. Don't assume they're gonna stick with you, because we know they won't, right?
please, when it comes to requests for repairs and home inspections, please have a conversation with your client.
Yeah.
It's gonna be 10 times easier, you just tell them up front. There's gonna be a 45-page long list, it's completely normal, everyone, like, just, don't have them expect to put everything into a contract.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And Cindy said she likes to first check what their preferred communication is, and then tailor her communication towards.
That's perfect.
That.
Ask the question.
Which Cindy said that?
I don't know. Either Gertie's or Monzon.
Yeah. Good job, one of the Cindy's. So that's right. Ask the questions, right? Ask them, which way do you want? Instead of forcing what you want on them, ask them, how do you like to be communicated with? It's easy. How do you like it? Yeah, what do you prefer? Do we have the video, Jackie?
Yes, ma'am.
We're gonna do my stupid video now, so.
Let's critique.
No, it's not good. But I just wanted to show you, it took me 30 seconds to do it. And it's easy just to.
Back, pause.
Well, at least you just.
Pause. I have to first get it to share the audio to the others, otherwise they won't get to hear it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna zoom all enough to know how to share the audio. Share audio. Their computers. I'm his student. He likes to take credit.
Not right now.
Yeah, you didn't train me on Mac, you trained. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lull in between.
Hey, Mike, I just wanted to personally welcome you to this journey. I
Oh,
know
wow,
buying a
really?
home is a big deal, and I want you to know you're in
Sharing
great
it with
hands.
others, but not
My
with
job
us.
is to make this
Okay,
process
we can hear
smooth,
it. Stay quiet, everyone.
stress-free, and successful for you. I'll be sending over a quick guide on what to expect. But for now, just know that I'm here for you every step of the way. Thanks so much. That was it.
Nothing wrong with that, sir.
Yeah, so that's easy, right? And it was real, so it was simple, but I just wanted to show you guys, like, it's not, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be all staged. Just say what you wanna say and send it out to them. Right?
It's more personal, it doesn't look salesy.
No, it's salesy, it's just very personal. So we got through that process, now we're to phase 3, which is affirm. This is when buyers and sellers might start doubting their decision, okay? They feel buyer's remorse is probably gonna be the biggest one that we're gonna run into. So have you guys ever run into that? They get in escrow and then all of a sudden they're like, oh God, I don't think this is the house for us. I don't think, it's natural because it's a big decision for them. What do you say, Chris, when that happens?
Well, usually. At the home inspection,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a good home inspector. They'll, between them and you. You let them know this is a good house. You just reaffirm to them that this isn't some. House that's got tons of abnormal problems and it's gonna be a money pit or something, like that's what. I feel like buyers kind of go to in the market, but you just reaffirm positivity with their decision, because I think the realtor is probably the number one person that's gonna be able to give confidence to a buyer. in the
Yep.
process.
I think so too. And I think you've got to let them voice their concerns. If you don't, it'll all come bubbling up at the end when you're trying to close. And so it's better to get a good home inspection, go over the home inspection. Try and keep their confidence high, like, and again, setting the tone. So when you're doing a home inspection, I tell my clients, this is not a list of repairs and it's gonna look really scary, because it does. There's 4,000 items on here and they think if somebody just gave a first-time home buyer a home inspection, they read it, they think the house is falling down.
Yeah.
Right? They would think this house needs to be destroyed. This is condemned. This is bad. So before you give them that home inspection, set the tone. Explain to them it's gonna look bad, but we're gonna go through it. We're gonna go through it line by line and see, really we wanna look for the big things. What's the health and safety issue? Yeah, Jim.
So like Chris, I try and set their expectations before they get there. I say, listen, Chris Dempsey, let's say, is gonna inspect this house. To his credit, he is going to crawl all through this place.
Yep.
And he's gonna find every little thing, but understand that if he went through a brand new house, it's just that he would find stuff. So don't panic. We wanna figure out.
Right.
So, but then what I also do is I meet with Chris. He's an hour and a half into this thing before the client show up. I say, Chris, give me your overall impression. He will, and I'll say, so it sounds like a good house, okay? And he's like, yeah, or if he says, I said, okay, then let's make sure you convey that to them, so they're not scared to death because they're brand new clients. I'm not trying to tone down what he's saying or hide anything, but I just want him to be positive, because he gets in minutia sometimes with me.
Well, because they don't hear anything beyond that kind of first statement that he makes, right? So he's making that first statement, and if it's a big negative, they don't hear anything beyond that, because they're all up in their heads going, ooh, ooh, panic, 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 panic. And like Jim said, if you say, okay, and I always try and point out some positives, like I'll look at the home inspection, and if it isn't that bad, I'll be like, but there's things on it, I'll say to him, oh, this home inspection isn't bad at all. This is good. I would have expected a lot more on a home this age. And then they kind of go, oh, because we thought it was bad.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good. Sets the tone. So you want to stay positive, and you always want to go at it like, look, these are things that can ask to be repaired. It doesn't mean that this is a deal killer. You know, that's why we do a request for repairs. We have an opportunity to get the seller to do it. Now, obviously, if you can't come to terms on something like that, the deal falls, but really, how often have you lost a deal over requests for repairs? I don't lose them very often over requests for repairs.
Only time I did was the agent from day one was always telling the buyer the house and never hearing their clients'
Right.
concerns.
Right.
And that agent did wrong from
Yeah.
day one.
Yeah, you've gotta let them express their doubts,
Mhm.
and then you've gotta talk to them about it. And see if you can get through that portion of it, because that is probably, other than the offer process, I think that might be one of the scariest points for the lending situation. I think is the most annoying part for the buyers, because they think, oh my God, it's so horrible, they just asked us for that, and then they do this. I always tell them, look, the lender isn't trying to make your life difficult, but the underwriter, they have guidelines, and the underwriter is making sure that this file meets those guidelines. But so he's just telling you, don't kill the messenger. But, and sometimes it is hard, and I will tell my buyers, yeah, I've seen that before, yeah, I've heard of that before. Yeah, you're not the only one, because by the end of it, most of them are out ready, like, I don't want to do this anymore. If they ask me one more thing, I'm not gonna do it, right? But you've got to get them through that process. The home inspection is very scary for people. What other parts do you think is tough for buyers?
Well, I just did a termite. And
Oh, yeah.
My guy had termites, and my guy was. Oh, what do we do from here? And I was just like.
The buyer said that, or the seller? The buyer.
And one of the homes. More than half the time on an older home on a raised foundation, you're gonna have.
Yep.
Chances are, you put money on it, you're gonna have termites. And he's like, oh, is, the house okay? And so I just kind of like went through all of that in detail with him, and I gave him the termite guy's number. And said, here, I will tell you what my experience is. There's nothing to worry about, it's super common, but if you have more questions, or you wanna talk to the expert, there's the expert. And you already know the expert, not gonna tell the house.
There's a lot of old wives' tales that termites move very quickly, like piranhas, and eat a house. They don't. They're actually very slow moving. It takes a long.
Takes like 3 or 4 years just for there to be evidence of them.
Exactly. So, and it's common. So you do want to talk to them about the pest inspection. What about getting the pest inspection done prior to listing? What about doing a home inspection prior for sellers? So they know, so it's not a big surprise, right?
You
Hey,
mentioned that, and I think you have to have good plan for us to be able to do it, so they don't think that you're sneaking in your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and for who? For the buyer or the seller?
For the buyer.
The buyer.
They can write in their own.
He's saying that get the home inspection for the sellers, so they know what the buyer like.
Yeah, and if the buyer wants to use our home inspection, great. If they want to use their own, I don't care. But I'm saying for the seller, because if Chris had already known, hey, look, there's termites, then you know how to negotiate that deal. As well as what is gonna come in for a home, for the pest.
The question, how do you navigate when it's, the one they're buying, the seller to provide that, but you're asking the seller to provide that. on their-
We're just saying, we wanna be prepared. We wanna be prepared. Like, they don't have to, but, and honestly, I think I'm gonna start paying for a home inspection of a buyer. I'm gonna pay for it because it makes my job easier. And if you, cause some sellers, they wanna take care of everything. There are some very meticulous sellers. They're like, well, we don't want anything. We don't want anybody to think we didn't take care of our house. So if I pay $350 for a home inspection, here's what we've got. You do have to disclose it, but come on, everybody's getting a home inspection anyway. They're gonna find it. Like, it's not our job to hide. It's our job to show what's going on and be able to make an easy navigation through the whole process. So I'm thinking about doing, obviously, it depends the price range of the house, but getting the seller to do it, I think it's a good idea. And
You can just teach you when you're walking about like what's gonna be.
Right,
Yeah.
right, when you walk through with your Lacey. When I'm walking through a house and I am with a seller, I'm pointing out what needs to be, what I think is gonna be called by an appraiser. I do it, so they,
Dry rot.
yeah, I'm like, oh, you have some dry rot there, I look at their water heaters, I look to see that there's smoke detectors. You know, I look for all of that, because I just think it's easier when they already know what's coming. Because especially if they're down to where they think it's their bottom dollar. Then and then the buyer does a home inspection or a pest inspection and there's termites. And then they lose their mind because they're like, oh, now we got to pay $2,500. I was already at my bottom dollar. Whereas if they already know, they're gonna factor that into the net sheet, right? So it's better service.
And
Some
that's
of
when
these
you can have
buyers
that
have-
conversation, it doesn't matter what buyer you have, they're all gonna find you.
That's right,
So if you don't deal with it, this.
that's right.
Some of the buyers agents don't have any control, and so they put literally everything on there, and then your seller's like, what the hell is all this, and they look at it, then they get freaked out.
Right.
But they already.
Oh,
know.
and in that situation, by the way. Do not ever present that to your seller.
No,
When you get a big long thing like that, you go back to that agent and you'd be like, nah. Dude, you need to fix this because this shit's gonna go sideways real quick if I.
Yeah,
You don't show your sellers.
Not if they come at me with something crazy right up first, no, I'm talking to that agent.
Yeah.
We're getting that thing manageable.
so again, it's about making the whole experience so much better, right? Giving them that next level service and taking, even with sellers. Yeah, they're not gonna wanna see it, but it's, if they see it from you, and then a buyer does a home inspection and they see it again. They're not gonna deny it, and they're not gonna be surprised, right?
Septic and well inspections too.
Yeah, septic and well. Mhm. The problem with the septic is that they only last for so long. And so if you do it up front, if it doesn't sell right away, you'll have to do it again. So that's the only reason I don't do a septic up front.
I like to just do it once in contract.
But once you're in contract, I do. It's like, I don't wait till the end. Because again, you don't want to have that kind of a problem. You wait till the end of escrow. Oh, we've got the well test. Oh, there's a problem. Oh, the septic. You've got leach lines that need to be replaced. So I do it right out of the gate. Okay. Any questions about that part of the process? No?
How do you guys handle the Zinsco?
oh, God.
Oh, God.
That's Chris all the way, that's Chris all the way.
Well, they all do it.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
single home inspector,
Circuit breakers,
it's the
Zinsco.
type of panel that it
it's
is.
an older, you know,
And they
Old
put a
breakers.
disclaimer in.
yeah,
This is how I handle it. I tell my people this comes through, that we see it on everyone, it's very common. And then I say, would you like, if they're doubting it, I say, would you like me to bring my electrician over to just make sure that the panel is in good shape? And they'll, sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, sometimes I don't care. But if I do, then I have my electrician go over and he just looks at it, yeah, it's all in good shape, nothing wrong with it.
that's all I did give it last one, provide a little stage with electrician.
Yeah. Because bear in mind, home inspectors are not experts in any one area. They are general, they're like a general, opinion of what's going on. They're not experts. They call out everything they see. Sometimes they're wrong.
Because they have liability, sorry, so.
Right.
They have it.
No, it's a brand. It's a brand.
The brand, yeah.
It's a brand.
Zinsco.
It's the breaker more than the panel, it's the breaker. Yeah,
So if you're showing a house and it's an older house, you might want to open up the panel and see what kind of a panel it is, what the brand is.
yeah,
Unless you're gonna come across as such an expert, right? Like, oh, yeah, well, they call this out in the home inspection and guess what? They do. You look like a
Every
hero.
time.
You're so
Yeah.
smart. So smart.
Some insurance, they're not insuring homes that have that on their thing. I was just gonna say that, my mom on Beverly, they had that right there, and Chris said that it's over into the, yeah, insurance. Recently.
Yeah. Because insurance is looking for any reason not
So
to.
that's like a new thing, right?
That's new.
I not every time.
Last year in March?
I always told her this.
Yeah, I just had one that was the same thing and they didn't do that. I think it just depends on which insurance company they're using. And if I had a client using that insurance company, I would recommend they go to somebody
Right.
different.
And remember too, when Chris talked, he break my clients out on that.
Yeah.
For parcel deal. I'm like, you gotta understand where Chris's standpoint is, and here's the reality, I've sold a couple of these, and there's really no problem, it's just historically around the nation, these breakers have been identified. And in a few house fires.
So, you know, like Sarah said, if you're saying those things after the fact.
There you go.
It's sound salesman.
Yeah,
But if you say ahead of time, like, hey, one of the things that Chris might call out.
yeah.
Is this,
And they will always do is this.
Yeah.
well, I just had
Right
this
now, you
happen.
don't sound the salesman.
Chris told me about it. And I chatted with them, I said, yeah, every electrician I've talked to said there's no problem with it. And then Chris started saying, yeah, oh, yeah, and then he went through the whole little thing about, yeah, it's just because back in the day, that I said, okay, everything you told me, make sure you tell everything. And that's what he did.
Yeah, that's what,
And if
Yeah,
you
we
have
did
a
that too.
relationship-
yeah.
Yeah. There's like a, yeah, it's crazy. So why is it so hot in there, Jack? It's like a million.
Where's the thermostat here?
What about getting insurance quotes before you guys list
Oh,
property?
yeah, I guess they're up there.
Springboro, you know.
Yeah, because,
These things from, where you're gonna real estate offer, make sure you apply some inspection and something.
Yep.
Before you get too far into that.
Right.
Make sure they get. Part of it.
when, in Springville, I asked if somebody showed my property and they want to make an offer, I said, have you got a quote on insurance yet? Because I'm not gonna do that to my seller and then we get in the middle and they're
I
like,
won't even write an offer on something
No.
up there without getting a quote
No.
first.
no.
Same with the flood zone.
So you better explain it to your buyer and you better explain it to your seller. I would get a quote and put it on, I would show it to him before I list that property. Because guess what? If it's, I got one up in Springville, last one I got $16,000. If it's $16,000, that is going to affect
The price.
the price.
Right.
So you need to bring that before, not after.
That recent one?
Yeah, last week.
So, here's a quick question, sir, on that. A lot of it was a phone off from work, people were not gonna work.
Oh, I would say some of it is, yeah. Yeah, the people, because sellers go, oh no, my insurance is $300 a month.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, it was, but it ain't gonna be when you get a new person in here, right? Okay, so the next phase that we have is the activate, but we kind of went through that. That's where they're making offers, accepted offers. And that's where you're gonna give them a home buyer and a home seller guide, right? You're gonna make sure you want to keep your energy high. You want to make sure you stay in contact with them. I would schedule it in my phone. Because how about this, when you get to that point of escrow, you know where everything's done, all the busy phase, so you have the busy phase, right? Where we're doing home inspections, we're doing disclosures, we're doing requests for repairs. And then the appraisal's done, and then all of a sudden, there's nothing, right? And then buyers and sellers are like, what's going on? What's happening? You gotta make sure you're telling them, you're staying, keep talking to them. Don't let them, they start talking to their uncle or their dad, and that's when they start getting weird about stuff. Make sure you're staying engaged with them. Make sure you're just checking in. How are you guys feeling? It's okay to talk about feelings, see if they're having any weird things. Maybe at that point, we might talk about helping them with moving, right? How are we gonna help with moving? How are we gonna be ready for moving? Do you have movers? Do you need boxes? All these kind of things that we can help to
Get their mind moving on. Yep.
get their mind, because exactly, you've got to get them to the finish line and they've got to see themselves in that new home. So you might be saying, oh, God, when I show houses, I'm like, oh, God, this just needs a beautiful dining room table. And then they start, yeah, we've got one. Oh, yeah, it's gonna look so good in here. Like you want them to see themselves, but it doesn't stop once you get in escrow. You've got to keep that going with them.
And there's something else too that people need to understand. Sometimes agents feel like you're doing a disservice to your client by doing what we're talking about, like getting them moving on or getting them to commit and to move forward and do that stuff, but you're protecting them from themselves.
Yeah.
Like 99% of the time, what their fear is irrational. It's not really that big of a deal. It's pretty common. So like, don't think of it as, oh, I'm trying to finagle them to moving forward. That's not, you're protecting them from themselves, killing this deal. And it's not about really the deal, it's about getting them into this home, because, you know, you're gonna do the best job that you can, you're looking out for your client, and that's what your mindset needs to be.
Right, so I think when we have sellers. So the next phase after you acclimate is accomplished, and that's closing, right? So. The closing should feel very seamless to people. So you should already know what keys, what are we doing with the keys? That's why I say negotiate occupancy up front. When you are making offers, you better be, because the worst thing in the world is you get down to the end of that escrow and it says, oh, but they get keys on day of closing. Oh, that's all cool. And then the seller's like, well, I can't move. And then the buyer's like, I want in my house. And then they are bang, butting heads. And I guarantee you, the buyer will find something so wrong at that point. It doesn't matter what it is. We didn't know that outlet cover was cracked. And then they start going nuts on stuff like that. And I've had clients, oh, well, we're gonna call the police. We call the sheriff, you're gonna move people out, you can't. And then they start asking, well, how do we get them out of our house? It's an eviction really at that point, but we don't want to even get to that point, right? So that's why I say negotiate. If it is occupied, I always give them a couple of days. And I tell my buyers, we need to give them a couple of days after close to move, because most people don't want to do that final move until they actually know it's closed. They have that money in their hands. So then you can just negotiate all of that with them. What about if for our sellers, we got a utility list? Like, oh, because we think everybody knows, right? But, our water is Del Oro. This is our Edison. This is, Southern California Edison for electricity. This is our meter number. I had a problem last week. They couldn't get the electricity on. The Edison had the address different than what the actual address was. So they had a problem. Mailbox number. How about that one? Community mailbox. How about if a seller took a picture or you took a picture and put an arrow to which dang box is theirs? Because, well, really, you're not supposed to give mailbox keys to the next people. They're supposed to go to the post office and get their own mailbox because they rekey it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what you're really supposed to do, but it's okay.
The seller to write down any information that my buyers may need when they take over possession of the any and all keys, garage door openers on the counter.
Yeah, so exactly, but so you really should, you get a mailbox key, but it's $35 to go to the post office and have it rekeyed. I would say who the long guy is, I would say, and I would have them provide that to you, so you can give it to the buyer's agent and they can give it to the buyer. And the same, if you're representing a buyer, I would ask the listing agent for that, not once it closes, right? Ask previously. Once it closes, I know, it's all about the closing, it's about the closing gift, but really, I think it's more than the closing gift.
Water softener uses, please make sure that the clients are not just be footage, or you know, they do it.
Yeah, and then the seller's been paying for it.
That's exactly, you shouldn't take that long. I mean, let me know, I have a plane that made that phone call. Make sure this is taken care of before I land.
Well, if I was representing the seller, I just tell them, take it out of my name, and then it's the buyer's problem.
You were trying to be.
Yeah.
on both sides.
Yeah.
It got to a point where all bets are off, and I said, guess what? That's the whole thing.
Yeah. So definitely who to reach out to, who, any keys, any remotes, anything like that, so that it makes it seamless. We take signs down, but get your lock boxes, because that irritates clients when they're on the front door, especially bang, bang, they're trying to get in the house in the lockbox and you've left it there for 2 weeks, So then, once that happens, we're not done, right? That's just the closing. Then the whole next process is how we stay in contact with them after the closing. But to get to that point, you want to make a smooth closing. And you want to make sure that from the closing, going backwards, it's been a very memorable and pleasant as it can be experience for them, right? So next week, we're gonna go on to the final phases and we're gonna talk about the buyer's guide, the seller's guide. I'm gonna give those to you. What else are we gonna do? We're gonna talk about what to do after the closing, ways not to drop off after we close, and how to get referrals, right? Because most of my business now, guys, is referral. I don't go, I once in a while get some people that are new, but most of my business is referral and repeat business. You've got to make the experience so good that you get that. Because we want to retain all those clients and get new ones and get new ones. You want to keep feeding it, but it's all about this experience.
I believe national average is to be 90% of people would use their last realtor again if they knew who they were. Or knew how to still
How many
contact
people
them.
have you talked to and you go, who sold you the house? And I'm like, I don't know, I can't really remember his name. I mean, seriously, it happens. And to me, I would be mortified if one of my clients said, oh, I can't remember her name. I don't know, some woman, I don't know. And then you'd be like, oh my God. So I want you guys to do a little bit of homework, look at your social media. Look at it from the eyes of a client, like how are they looking at that? What are they seeing? Would I want to work with this person? Like, what is this? And then think about your process of what you do, how you handle, how you introduce, and literally write it down. And I think if you become so scheduled with it, and I know I'm always preaching, calendaring, but put it in your calendar. Like, don't forget to call my sellers. Maybe it's Friday. I call my sellers every Friday, all of my listings, I call them. And then we'll talk next week about what we can do after the sale to stay communicated and with those people. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
What you're saying right there, no matter, no, you say, oh, that you like that. You need to mention, for example, three transactions going at the same time, basically, beyond my control, lighting, or things. That upset with me. I was listening, there's a comment, holding back, I could get there, I said, like, I thought that basically. Done with this point, I told you, I was in contact with them, they should say, Christmas, whatever, always doing the project.
Right.
Only 3 weeks ago, the office was really talking to them.
Yep.
So you never know. Seeing that contract, even though it might ended at a bad point.
Right.
Which it really did, it's just. But it has,
Yeah, sometimes you gotta let them vent.
so,
You gotta let them vent.
but I'm saying it works, it really works, what she's saying.
And you gotta stay more engaged with them because I promise you, something's always gonna go wrong when the house closes, right? It's always 3 things. The dishwasher's not working, the AC is not working, the pool pump isn't working. Do not back off from your clients at that point, because that is a huge mistake. That is a relationship killer. So you better be in the mix, even though you don't want to hear what's going on. You better hear them and you better try and help. I mean, sometimes it gets to a point where it's like beyond, but those things that you can't, but those things that are happening, you've got to stay engaged. So, but we'll talk about that next week. Okay, thank you, everybody, for
Right,
joining.
thank you, good flat, thank you, Tara.